Hi, good afternoon everybody. It's Danielle here from Natural Syrup this evening. I've already given you two recipes. You'll find them in previous posts. There was one for a fermented elderberry honey, and then there was also, what was the other one? Oh my gosh. It's gone clean out of my head. What was the other elderberry recipe? I cannot remember. It'll come back to me. But anyway, today I'm going to talk to you about syrup. It's a little bit more tricky to make than the ones we've done previously, but by the same token, it's not hard to do. You just have to do a little bit of prep beforehand. So what I've got ready to show you, I'm not going to show you the whole process of making the syrup because it takes a little bit of time, but I'm going to show you the beginnings of it and I'll talk you through it. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to do a blog post for you so that you can have it to hand when you're making it yourself if you want, but it's pretty straightforward, but I'll take you through the steps, okay? So first of all, what I have here is my big preserving pot full of elderberries. Well, it's not full of elderberries, but there's a good few elderberries in there. There's probably about 2 kilos of elderberries in there. Now, I have that big preserving pot, which is fantastic for making jam and stuff. If you have one, great. If you don't, just use a big saucepan. And what I'm also going to put in there with the elderberries as well is some sage. I'm going to just put them in as they are. I'll crush them a little bit just to release the oils and I'll pop them in. So you've got the sage and the elderberries. And the reason I put sage in there is I like to put, when I'm making the elderberry syrup, I like to put some herbs from the garden, and it's usually sage or thyme because they are very good herbs for the respiratory system. And when we tend to take elderberry syrup is in the winter time to ward off cold and flu. So the extra benefit of the sage and the thyme is fantastic as well because it will help your whole respiratory system. And elderberries are, if you haven't caught my earlier videos, elderberries are amazing to use in the winter time to help ward off colds and flus. They're antibacterial, antiviral. They've tons of antioxidants in them, lots of vitamins A and C. There's iron in there too. They're just like a powerhouse for your immune system. So if you can do something with elderberries at this time of the year, your health will thank you for it. And especially where we are at the moment now in the middle of this pandemic, our immune systems will need all the support that it can get as we go into our winter season. So get out there and pick your elderberries. They're everywhere at the moment and it's a really good season for them, or a really good year for them, I'm finding anyway. There seems to be more than ever. So get out and pick them. So elderberry syrup, how do you make it? So I have my elderberries in the pot here. What you do is you add, depending on how many elderberries you have, you take them all off the stalks. That's not as difficult as it sounds. Use a fork and just run the fork along the stalks of the elderberry and it will pull the elderberries off. Now you will see, if you have in here, you will see little bits of stalks that are left. Those little tiny ones are okay, because you could be forever trying to pick them out. What you don't want to have is the bigger, thicker stalks in there because they're toxic. And you don't want green berries in there, so pick out the green ones or the unripe berries. So you use equal amounts of water to your berries. So if you've got a kilo of water or a kilo of berries, you need a kilo of water. If you've got 500 grams of berries, you put in 500 ml of water, okay? So you put them on the heat, you bring them up to a slow boil, and once they've come up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer and let them simmer for about half an hour. And what you're doing there is you're getting all the goodness out of the berries into the water. And what I tend to do then is I turn off the heat after the half hour and I leave them sit for a couple of hours. Now what I will do today is I'll put that on this evening after dinner and I will leave it sit overnight once I've turned it off, and that way all the goodness will come out of the berries. But you don't have to do that. You can bring them up to the boil, simmer for half an hour, take them off the heat, and you can strain them straight away if you're ready to go and to make your syrup then. So you strain them off when you're ready, squeeze all the goodness out of those berries, like really squeeze them out. If you've got a muslin cloth or something like that, or a clean tea towel, be careful, they will stain. There's a very high dye or a very strong dye in elderberry, so don't use something that's good that you don't want to ruin because it may stain your cloth. So squeeze out all the goodness and then measure how much elderberry liquid you have. So again, if you have 500 ml of liquid, then you want 500 grams of sugar. Okay, you put the sugar and the elderberries back into the pot, put it back onto the heat and bring it up slowly, and the key here is slowly, to a boil, because the reason you want to do it slowly is you want to get that sugar dissolved before it comes to the boil. If you don't, then your syrup will be grainy. So just slowly melt the sugar and then bring it up to a boil. And once you have it up to a boil, let it boil away for, it could be anything from 5 to 15, 20 minutes. What you want to do is boil it until you get a syrupy consistency. It just makes it nicer and richer and, nicer to drink. So that can take, as I said, depending on your oven, anything from 5 to 20 minutes. So that was straightforward, right? You cook down your berries, leave them for half an hour, squeeze out all the goodness, equal amounts of water to the amount, or equal amounts of sugar to the amount of elderberry syrup that you have. Bring it slowly up to the boil, and then once it's at the boil, keep it boiling until you get a syrupy consistency. And once you have your syrupy consistency, take it off the heat and bottle it. Now, I always sterilise the bottles that I put my syrups into, because it's just safer. So it's very straightforward to sterilise them before you start or while it's on the boil. Rinse or wash your bottles or your jars. If you don't have bottles, don't worry, you can keep the syrup in a jar. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it's in. It's good stuff no matter what it's in. So what you do is you wash them in hot water and you put them into the oven on a heat of about 100 degrees and leave them there for about 20 minutes or while you're making the syrup. And then what you do is you take the syrup off the heat. What I like to do is bottle it while it's hot. So carefully pour your syrup into a jug just to make it easier to pour, and then pour that into your hot bottles straight from the oven and seal them. Now if you don't want to mess with hot syrup, let the syrup cool down completely and let your sterilised jars cool completely. What you don't want to do is put hot syrup into cold jars or cold syrup into hot jars. You need them both to be the same temperature. So you can either let it cool or do it while it's hot. I do it while it's hot. Seal them, label them, and you're sorted for winter. I find that the syrup will keep for a good 12 months. It never lasts that long in our house, but it will keep for a good 12 months because you've got your sugar in there. As I said, I don't know too many houses that would have a whole lot of it left, but because of the sugar content in there, it will preserve. Just stick it in a cupboard somewhere, a dark cupboard, and you have your best winter medicine for the coming months. It's so straightforward and simple. I hope I've made the instructions clear enough for you. As I said, I will do a blog post for you as well, but it won't be today. It might be the weekend before I get to that. But you can look back at this video and hopefully I've made it fairly straightforward to you. But the one thing you need to do is get out, especially this week when the weather's so good, and collect your elderberries. They are just absolute powerhouses for your immune system, and if you have elderberry syrup in your cupboard for the winter, at the first sign of a cold or flu, take a couple of spoons of that 3 or 4 times a day and it will knock it dead. And the kids love it. It's really easy to take. You can take it straight from the bottle, or what you can do is make a drink out of it. Mix it with water, or sparkling water is really nice. And you've got a drink like a cordial, or put it over pancakes or syrup or your porridge in the morning, however you want to take it. But the key thing is that you're taking the elderberries because they're just packed full of goodness for you. So that's it, my third elderberry recipe. I still can't remember what the other one was that I did. Somebody might remind me. I did the fermented elderberry honey was the first one I did. What was the second one that I did? It has gone clean out of my head, but I promise you it's there on my feed. This is the third recipe that I've done. The other 2 are there. So have a look back at previous posts and you will find them, okay? Hope you're all enjoying this gorgeous weather that we're having at the moment. I'm way off now to get the dinner for herself. And I will chat to you all soon. If you like this video and you like the elderberry recipes, please do share them with your friends. Share them on your pages or tag people who might like them. And let's get everybody out there picking their elderberries and making their elderberry goodies for the winter season that's coming. Okay, chat to you all soon, folks. Bye.